Just as he reached the gates, he saw Lu Jinian flipping through the rubbish bin by the gates, looking for something. Even though the rubbish in Mianxia Garden was cleared daily, there was still a stench from the bin. The assistant froze momentarily before rushing forward with his hands covering his nose. "Mr. Lu, it's dirty here. What are you looking for?" "I'll get someone to find it for you." Lu Jinian continued searching through the trash wordlessly, as though his assistant hadn't spoken. Just then, a spark brightened his eyes when he spotted black plastic. The assistant retreated backwards, looking as Lu Jinian opened the plastic bag. In a daze, he stood by the rubbish bin, frozen, looking straight into the bag. The cake was in ruin, the buttercream spilling over the bag. There was also deflated balloons inside that were emitting a horrible smell. In that instant, Lu Jinian was at a loss for words. He stood there, a heart-wrenching pain exploding through his body. He stood trembling, with the plastic bag in his hands. The assistant didn't know what he saw, but he knew that something was wrong. He just stood silently at the side, not daring to even breathe. Lu Jinian remained paralyzed in the same position for a long time before finally blinking his eyes. He continued to stare down at the mess in the bin, trying to decipher how the cake had looked like originally. After another long while, he blinked before placing the plastic bag back in the trash bin. He then brushed past his assistant, as though he wasn't there, heading for the backyard. When Madame Chen saw Lu Jinian entering, she immediately greeted him, "Mr. Lu," but he brushed past her as though she hadn't spoken, walking straight for the bedroom. He entered the room and shut the door, leaning against it, staring up at the crystal lights in deep thought. Madame Chen wasn't lying. She had planned a surprise for him yesterday. Madame Chen mentioned that it was the first time she had made a birthday cake. If he had come back home yesterday, it would have all been his. Why didn't he come back? Why didn't he come back? His eyes started to sting, his throat choked up to the point he couldn't breathe normally. He reached to cover his face with his hands, a wrenching murmur escaping his throat, "Lu Jinian, why didn't you come back?" By the time he went down, he was back to his frosty, distant self. He had showered and changed into a fresh set of clothes. Without a word, he walked to his car. The entire journey, Lu Jinian remained in the same position as when he just entered the car, his gaze staring out the window in deep thought. The atmosphere in the car was thick. The assistant focused on driving, his gaze staring straight ahead, not daring to make any sudden movements. Tianhao wasn't in Mianxia Garden for lunch. She had gone to the hotel restaurant with Zhao Morn. Yesterday, she didn't sleep well and her mood wasn't the best, causing her lack of energy. She randomly picked a few food before finding a place to sit down.